This one's about my boss. 15 years, one man, one desk between us. He taught me everything I know about money, except the one lesson that cost me the most to learn alone: how to leave. I was 22, with one borrowed tie and a CV padded like a winter jacket. 40 applications, 0 replies. Then a call from a firm I'd almost not applied to. A man with a silver mustache wanted to see me at 9. "Rashid, sir." Even now my spine straightens typing it. Gray waistcoat, brass nameplate, a handshake that weighed your character. He read my thin CV for one long minute and said, "Everyone lies on these. Tell me what's true." I told him the truth. I knew nothing, but could learn anything. He nodded like a man buying a horse. "I'll teach you. You'll work. The salary is small because the education is not." I'd have paid him. I nearly did, for 15 years. First salary, cash, in an envelope with my name in his handwriting. You already know from the first $100 video what a first envelope does to a person. I framed the note in my head and spent the rest like scripture. He was first in, last out. So I became first in, laster out. That's not a word, but it was a lifestyle. He noticed on day 9, said nothing, just started leaving tea on my desk at 8. That tea ran my loyalty for a decade. Understand, this is not a villain story. For 5 years, that office was the best school in the city. Clients, margins, invoices, handshakes, when to speak, when to absolutely not. A living MBA, tuition paid in overtime. His first commandment: watch the money, not the mood. Clients smile while their checks bounce. Clients scowl while paying early. Feelings are weather. Ledgers are climate. I still hear it every time a deal feels too good. My father, you know him from his own video, asked if I was happy there. I said, "I'm learning." He smiled and said, "That's not what I asked." I didn't hear the difference. For years, I did not hear the difference. Nobody signs up for 15 years. You sign up for 1, and then the years renew themselves automatically, like a subscription you forgot you're paying. This is the story of what that subscription cost and what it paid. Let me pay him properly first, because the internet loves a villain, and he wasn't one. Everything I know about money mechanics, I learned at that wooden desk. These next lessons are his. Steal them. Lesson: revenue is vanity, margin is sanity, cash is reality. He'd say it over invoices like a prayer. Companies die with full order books and empty accounts. So do households. That's lifestyle inflation wearing a business suit. He collected receivables like a hawk and paid suppliers on the exact due date. Never early, never late. Money in your account works for you. Money in transit works for nobody. The float is a river. He taught me to fish it. Never negotiate hungry, for food, for money, or for approval. Desperation leaks through handshakes. Every bad deal I've ever signed, I signed hungry. Every good one, I could afford to walk away from. Remember that line. Here's the man he was. A desk drawer with envelopes for staff emergencies. No ledgers, no lectures, no interest. A driver's mother's surgery. A clerk's fees. I saw it a dozen times. Generosity without applause. Rare then, rarer now. When we upgraded equipment, he'd ignore the salesman's brochure and ask one question. What does it earn per month? Assets earn. Shine costs. I buy everything in my life with that one question now. It has never once failed me. He read every contract twice, once for what it said, once for what it didn't. The trap is never in the clause you read, it's in the clause that's missing. Apply that to job offers, marriages, and mobile plans. Our biggest client abused staff, paid late, demanded miracles. Everyone said keep him. Rashid sir walked into that man's office and resigned from him. Bad money costs more than no money. We were tight for a quarter. We were free for years. By year 6, I ran half the operation. His clients knew my name. His systems ran through my desk. One day, all this responsibility will be yours, he'd say. Notice the word he chose. Responsibility, not equity. I didn't notice for years. That office was the best school I ever attended. But here's the thing about schools with no graduation ceremony. Nobody tells you when you're done. Some students stay enrolled forever. The tuition just changes shape. Year 7. Market rate for my role had doubled outside. I didn't know. I'd never looked. He called me in, spoke about family, loyalty, the future, and raised me 15%. I nearly cried with gratitude. 15%. Here's what gratitude does. It rounds every number in the other man's favor. A 15% raise on an underpaid salary is a discount he bought, not a gift he gave. I framed the discount and hung it on my wall. We're a family here. The 4 most expensive words in employment. Families don't invoice each other, so when work calls itself family, someone is about to work weekends for free. Usually the one who's most grateful. A rival firm approached me that year. I refused so fast I felt proud. Didn't ask their number. Didn't tell Rashid, sir. Loyalty, I called it. A negotiation I attended with no other bidder is what it actually was. On my own life. Senior this, head of that. Titles are free, that's why they're given so freely. My business cards got heavier. My ownership stayed at 0%, where it had always been. You cannot deposit a title, and titles compound nothing. And listen, the leash was comfortable. Respected work, a boss I loved, tea at 8, my name known in the industry. Comfort is the most underrated cage design. Nobody rattles bars made of cushions. Maya, you know her, saw it in year 8. On a money date, she asked, "If the firm vanished tomorrow, what's yours?" "My skills," I said. "And what do they pay on the open market?" I realized I had never once checked. 8 years, never checked. Think about that. I audited every client's numbers, every supplier's margin, and had never priced myself. I was the only asset in that building without a market valuation. The best maintained machine, never once appraised. The catalog of golden handcuffs, the loan he co-signed, the Eid bonuses, the hospital visit when my father was ill. Real kindnesses, every one, and every one made the exit door heavier. Kindness can be a wage too. It just can't be deposited. You know this channel's oldest law. Compounding is quiet, then loud. It works on salaries too. Underpayment compounds silently, year on year, raise on raise, until one day the gap between your value and your pay is loud enough to hear at night. Year 11. We hired a bright kid for a role 2 levels below mine. HR left the offer letter on the printer. His starting salary was 90% of mine, after my 11 years. I read it twice, like Rashid sir taught me. Everyone has a printer page moment. The document you weren't supposed to see that prices you honestly for the first time. Mine took 11 years to arrive. When yours comes, don't get angry at the paper. Thank it. That night, I built the spreadsheet I'd been avoiding. My pay versus market, year by year, compounded. The gap wasn't a number. It was a house. A full house, with a garden, paid in loyalty to a man who never asked me to price it. My first anger went at his desk. Then honesty arrived. He'd never lied to me. He'd simply negotiated well against a man who refused to negotiate at all. The market had been open every single day for 11 years. I just never walked in. I caught myself saying the cage's favorite sentence. Where would I even go? Spoken like a fact, priced like a feeling. I had never interviewed, so the answer felt like nowhere. Unpriced fear always feels like nowhere. Worse than the money, my name had fused with his firm. Industry people called me Rashid's man. An honor. and an absorption. Somewhere in year 9, my professional self had become a department of his. Departments don't leave. 11 years is a chapel of sunk cost. You sit in it and whisper, after all this time, leaving would waste everything. Hear the mechanism. The years are spent either way. The only question is what the next year buys, and who it buys it for. My father's old question resurfaced. Are you happy there? Except now he was gone, and the question had become an inheritance. Unfinished business passed to me. This channel exists because of unfinished questions like that one. Deepest cut. By then, I was the guy explaining runway math and market rates in this very format, to cousins, to Zane, to strangers. The mechanic whose own car wouldn't start. Knowledge isn't the bottleneck. Permission is. The cuffs broke on one question. Maya's again, gentler this time. You're not afraid of leaving. You're afraid of finding out what you're worth. What if it's more? I had no defense filed against that. None.
So at 36, I did what I should have done at 26. Priced myself. Updated the CV honestly. No winter padding needed anymore. 15 years of real operations. The market, it turned out, had been waiting politely the whole time. 3 interviews in 3 weeks. Strangers valuing my skills without a single loyalty discount. Interviews aren't job hunting. They're mirrors with prices on them. Everyone should stand in one yearly, employed or not. Boss's contract rule. Read what's missing. What was missing was my price. The offer came on a Tuesday. Same role, better systems, at exactly double. Not a raise, a correction. 11 years of compound underpayment, marked to market in one PDF. I read it twice, and the second read was for what it didn't say. Family. I expected to feel triumphant. I felt grief. Leaving money is arithmetic. Leaving a man who made you is bereavement. Anyone who tells you career moves are purely rational has never loved a mentor. The spreadsheet decides. The heart invoices later. Before deciding, the old discipline. Runway check. 2 years of expenses saved. You know that video too. Here's what runway actually buys. Not escape. Calm. I could now choose between 2 goods instead of fleeing one fear. Twice I drafted the resignation. Twice I deleted it. Once after he praised me in front of clients. Once after tea appeared on my desk at 8, 15 years of steam rising off it. Cages don't hold you with locks. They hold you with rituals. The night before, Maya and I sat with the whole 15 years on the table. The school it was, the cage it became, both true at once. That's the adult version of every story on this channel. Both true at once. Decide anyway. I made a list titled, What I Actually Owe Him. The education, real. The chances, real. The salary discount, paid in full with 11 years of interest. Verdict. I owed him honesty and a proper goodbye. Not my 40s. Debts have amounts, even emotional ones. And here's the beautiful trap of good teachers. His own lessons argued my case. Bad money costs more than no money. Resign from it. Never negotiate hungry. I finally wasn't. Watch the money, not the mood. Sir, I did. That's why I'm leaving. I asked for a meeting. Tuesday, 9 a.m. The same hour he first saw me, 15 years earlier. If you're going to close a circle, close it where it opened. I ironed my own tie this time. The walk from your desk to your boss's door, carrying a resignation, science should measure it. 11 meters, 15 years long. The letter was 1 page. My hands treated it like it weighed a filing cabinet. He looked at my face and knew. Men who read contracts twice read faces once. He took off his glasses, set them on the ledger, and said the last thing I expected. Sit. Tea first. We drank in silence. It tasted like the whole story. I gave it to him the way he'd taught me to deliver bad numbers. No cushions. Sir, I've received an offer at double. I'm accepting it.
My last month is yours, and my gratitude is permanent. Watch the money, not the mood. Even now. Especially now. He countered, of course. Match, plus a title, plus, for the first time in 15 years, a discussion about a small share. There it was. The equity that only exists when the door is already open. Remember this beat, every one of you. Your leverage is never higher than at goodbye. I said no, gently. Not out of spite. Because a price that only appears when you're leaving isn't your value being recognized. It's your exit being repriced. The relationship had to change shape to survive. Money couldn't do that part. He was quiet for a long time. Then, 11 years ago, I should have raised you properly. I told myself the family talk was true. It was, and it was also cheap. Both things. The man taught me honest ledgers to the very end, including his own. His only condition. Teach your replacement everything, the way I taught you. 1 month, 2 notebooks, 1 bright kid. The printer page kid, actually. I taught him the lessons and the one nobody taught me. Check your price yearly, I told him. He checked it that week. Good. On my last day, he opened the quiet drawer, the envelopes one, and handed me one with my name in his handwriting, like the first salary. Inside, no money. A letter. You were never my employee. You were my best work. Go prove it. I do not cry at offices. I cried at the office. The last handshake weighed my character one final time, and for the first time, we weighed the same. That's what leaving well means. Not burning the bridge, finishing it, so both sides can walk across it later. I left with a box, a letter, and a market rate future. 15 years, closed properly. If a chapter ever ends for you, end it like a professional. Full notice, full handover, full respect. The industry is a small room with a long memory.
First Monday outside. Terror and oxygen in the same breath. Nobody knew my tea time. My name stood alone on documents, no Rashid's man before it. Turns out I fit my own name. Most people never find that out. It costs a resignation to learn. The first corrected salary landed like proof. Half went to work immediately. You know my machines by now. Index funds, the parents' fund, Zane's Academy. Underpayment had been my biggest hidden expense for a decade. Cancelled, at last. Here's the redemption of those 15 years. The skills were real. Everything he taught worked outside his walls, worked better, at market price. The school was never the problem. Only the tuition model was. I finally understood loyalty. It's not staying forever. That's just inertia with a halo. Loyalty is honest work at an honest price, both directions, renewed by choice. Anything else is rent that one side forgot to collect. And the calls still came. His calls. First operational questions, then advice, then, one evening, the new contract. Read it for me. You always saw the missing clause. The student became the second reader. I billed him nothing. That was free. That was family. The firm wobbled the next year. The industry turned. I went back for 3 weekends, no charge, and helped him restructure. People asked why. Because the debt I'd kept, honesty and a proper goodbye, had a clause. Show up when it matters. I read my own contracts twice too. Quiet consequence. After I left, he repriced the whole staff. Market rate audits, yearly. The bright kid got 2 raises without asking. Sometimes the most loyal thing you can do for the people still inside is prove the door works. My new office has a drawer now. Envelopes. No ledger, no lectures. A guard's daughter's fees, a junior's rent gap. His best lesson had nothing to do with margins. I just needed my own desk to install it. And every morning at 8, I leave tea on my juniors' desks. One of them stays too late.
First in, laster out. I recognize the disease. So, with the tea, I leave the cure. Check your market price yearly. That's an order. That's the after. Not revenge, not ruin. A circle drawn properly. The mentor's lessons, minus the mentor's blind spot, passed on with the interest he'd have wanted. Every good teacher deserves students who outteach them. Now the toolkit, because your boss story is running right now, whether you're watching it or not. 7 mechanisms. Steal them like I stole his lessons. 1. Market price yourself every year. 1 updated CV, 2 conversations, 0 guilt. Employed people interview from strength. That's exactly why they don't, and exactly why they should. Your salary is a price. Unchecked prices rot. 2. Keep gratitude and compensation in separate ledgers. Be grateful forever, in words, in loyalty of conduct, in showing up. But never let gratitude sign the salary line. It writes discounts and calls them love. You've now seen where that compounds. 3. When work says family, hear a price signal. It usually precedes an ask that a contract would refuse. Real families have drawers of envelopes. Corporate families have unpaid weekends. Learn the difference in week 1, not year 11. 4. Never trade money for titles. A title is applause. Equity and salary are assets. If they matter to the mission, ask for the one that compounds. If they refuse, you've learned the mission's real org chart. 5. Remember the counteroffer law. Your leverage is highest when you're leaving. So borrow that leverage early. Negotiate each year as if you had the offer letter, because the market would happily write you one. Don't wait for the door to open to be priced. 6. Runway isn't just quit money. It's relationship insurance. 2 years of expenses meant I could leave with grace instead of resentment. Give a full month. Teach my replacement. Broke people burn bridges. Runway builds exits with handrails. 7. When you do leave, full notice, full handover, 0 drama, permanent gratitude. The industry is a small room. Your exit is remembered longer than your work. Mine turned a boss into a lifelong client, reference, and friend. And if you're the boss in someone's story, audit your best people's market rate before the market does. The raise you're avoiding is smaller than the replacement you're inviting. Rashid sir would co-sign that now. It only cost him his best man to learn it. Hold the whole truth. He made me, and he underpaid me. I owed him everything, and I owed myself more. Both things true at once. That's every real relationship on this channel. The mechanics exist so love and money can both survive.
These days we meet monthly. A coffee place halfway between his office and mine. 2 men, 2 businesses, 1 old habit. He still reads my face first. I still sit up straighter. Some hierarchies retire into affection. The good ones do. He tells the story himself now, to his new juniors, with me sitting there. This one resigned from me at double, exactly the way I taught him to fire bad money. Proudest day of my career, and it cost me my best man. The room never knows whether to laugh. We do. Last year he downsized the office and gave me the brass nameplate from the wooden desk. You stared at it for 15 years. It should retire at your place. It sits in my office now, facing me. A teacher watching, forever. I work better under surveillance by memory. The printer page kid runs his operations now. Market priced, equity holding, T at 8. The system upgraded itself in 1 generation because 1 exit went well. Doors, once proven, stay usable. That's the quiet legacy of leaving properly. Maya's verdict on the whole saga, delivered over a money date. You didn't leave him. You left the version of yourself that needed permission. I've been out-taught in my own house. It's the best financial planning available.
What the corrected money actually did. The parents' fund doubled. The academy got a second pitch. Our house got its kitchen table paid off, the huge one. Underpayment wasn't just my loss. It was everyone's, downstream. Corrections cascade too. And his lessons run this channel. Watch the money, not the mood. That's every video here. Read what's missing. That's the audits. The drawer. That's why we talk about giving. One man's wooden desk, broadcast forward. Tuition finally repaid, with interest, publicly. His letter. You were my best work. Go prove it. Hangs framed beside the nameplate. On hard days I read it. On good days it reads me. Every worker deserves one letter like that. Every boss should write one before it's too late to mean it. Final accounting of 15 years. Education, priceless. Underpayment, a house-sized tuition fee. The exit, executed at market with full respect. Net position, profitable, but only because I finally closed the books myself. Unclosed books stay expensive forever. The man who owned my Tuesdays for 15 years now gets my Tuesdays once a month, by choice, over coffee, as a friend. That's the whole journey, from owned time to offered time. Everything this channel teaches lives between those two words. Takeaways. 1. Your boss relationship is a ledger, not a family tree. Respect, gratitude, loyalty of conduct, unlimited. Salary, equity, hours. Negotiated, at market, on schedule. Keep the ledgers separate and both stay clean. 2. Audit your market price every single year, employed or not. 1 CV update, 2 coffee chats. The check costs an afternoon. Skipping it costs me a house. Your employer prices you annually. Match their discipline. 3. Audit your comfort. Tea at 8, a respected name, a familiar desk, beautiful, and occasionally load-bearing walls of a cage. The test. If the firm vanished tonight, what's yours? Whatever shrinks in that question needs building. 4. The years you've given are spent. No refunds. The only live question is what next year buys and for whom. Chapels of sunk cost hold beautiful services. Don't get married in one. 5. His best law, extended. Never negotiate hungry, so build the runway that ends hunger. 2 years of expenses turns every workplace conversation from plea to choice. Runway isn't for quitting. It's for standing up straight. 6. Every mentor hands you a curriculum and a blind spot in one package. Take the lessons with both hands. Then audit the blind spot. It's usually priced exactly where they benefit. Great teachers forgive great audits. Mine did. 7. Exits compound harder than entrances. Leave with notice, handover, gratitude, and the door becomes a bridge. References, clients, friendships, and one day maybe your old boss reading contracts across a coffee table as your friend. Because it was never about the raise, or the title, or the offer letter. It was about a man who taught me everything, and a student who finally learned the one lesson that wasn't on the syllabus. Your worth doesn't need permission. This is Wealth Mechanics, the relationship series. The best friend, the father, her, my mother, my twin, and now the man behind the wooden desk. One relationship left. It's the one in the mirror. Subscribe. The finale is personal. As always, a story, not a prescription. Careers and money deserve professional advice for your specific case. And if you have a Rashid Sir in your life, thank him this week. Audit your price this month. Both. Always both. Good night.